Well, the project started back in the late 1980s in England, in the days when I had a recording studio, and the duo had a name which is similar to Bad Matrix, but we recorded a bunch of songs and presented them to some record companies, and Warner Chappell in England really liked the music. They wanted more songs, which we produced, and then they wanted a band, which I put together. The band recorded some songs, and then Warner Chappell called us into a meeting and said, it's all fantastic stuff, but unfortunately with the financial climate as it was in the early 90s, they said, sorry, we're stopping investment in new artists, and you are one of the acts that we're cutting. So that was the end of that, and the project died pretty much immediately, and within a few weeks I was with another band for the next 20 years and forgot all about original music. Well, that's a really interesting story, because for many years my wife Jackie had been saying to me, you got to write some new music, you got to record some new music. And I said, no. And at the same time, my good friend Lorenzo Sands of Top Artist Promotion was saying, why don't you write some new music? And I went, no. So I had Lorenzo here, my wife Jackie here, and in the end I went, you know what, let me listen back to some of the old original recordings, which are now over 30 years old. So from DAT tape, digital audio tape, I lifted the songs, put them on the computer, and I listened back and I went, that's not so bad really, this is better than I remember. So then I thought, okay, let's do this. And Lorenzo and Jackie together, you know, they talked me into re-recording these songs. And that's how that happened, basically. Absolutely, yes. Once I decided that that's what I'm going to do, I immediately got in touch with my very good friend Phil Crombie, who's the bass player with Deeper Purple, in that band together. And he became the engineer, the producer, the editor of everything. Then I contacted my very good friend, keyboard player Paul Morris, who used to be with Rainbow and Yngwie Malmsteen, and he said yes. And then I contacted an English drummer, Paul Mallion, who I've worked with several times over the years. And the final part of that puzzle was Polish singer Peter Zaleski, who loved the project and has been very enthusiastic about it the whole time. So with those guys in place, we started to record the songs. Well, that's an interesting story as well, because what we had, remember the recordings are like 30 years old. They came from cassette or DAT tape, so sometimes the speeds fluctuated. So the first job was to take those speeds and even them out to a good tempo. So that's where Phil took those original recordings and stretched them, had to move things, bits and pieces, so that we had a nice consistent tempo-wise of the songs. And then the drummer was sent those songs, one at a time. He probably had the hardest job to do, because he had no idea what it was going to sound like apart from the original recording. So he drummed to the original track, sent it to Phil, who did some editing and did whatever he had to do. Then Phil would put his bass to it and then send it to me for guitars. I would track 4 rhythm guitars as a minimum, and then adding other layers as it went on. And at the same time, the songs were sent to Paul Morris for him to put keyboards on. When all of that was done, then they were sent to the vocalist, Peter, who would then do his vocals, and then everything went back to Phil for editing, compiling, and then finally mixing. But I'll talk about that later. Yeah, well, each song was done one at a time, which allowed us the time to to really look at what we were doing, focus in on what needed to be done, give the songs a new life, and in certain places change a few things. The songs in themselves were great, but we had to bring them up to today's standard, both in terms of musical content and the way they were recorded. So some of the songs really came very easily to me, which was quite interesting. And some of the guys put their own ideas into the song, which gave it a new life, which was fabulous. The recording of all the songs took about 18 months. The mixing was quite quick. That took about 6 weeks. And from there, we had the mastering to do, and that was quite quick. Definitely, yes. I enjoyed it immensely. Sometimes it was frustrating, but then, you know, it's like going to the gym. No pain, no gain. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and it was nice to revisit these old friends, you know, who in some ways are like your children. But it was nice to revisit these old songs and play them again for the first time in over 30 years. Okay, well, from the beginning, we decided that the cover had to be a little bit different. It was pretty obvious that the album was going to be called Dangerous Game from the beginning. We have the title track of the album on the album. So then we thought, well, we don't want a heavy metal cover. We want something that's just a little bit different to stand out from everything else. And once again, Lorenzo Sanz of Top Artist Promotion, well, he came up with the idea. What about an elephant who's being dangerous on a ball, on top of a building? What could be more dangerous than that? And the album cover works, and people are commenting about it. So I think that really, really worked.